Okay. Agenda item 1 is prayers, and I would like to invite the Right Reverend Hugh Nelson, Bishop of St. Germans and Bishop of the Armed Forces, to lead us in prayer today.
Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege and a joy to be with you this morning. What I plan to do for prayers is to offer a brief bidding prayer, an invitation to a particular area or focus, and then to leave some silence for you to pray in the way that you pray, whatever that might be, and then to draw it together with a final prayer and then the Lord's Prayer. There's going to be lots of words, I'm sure, in the rest of your day together. So a few words from me, but also silence. And so let us pray. Lord of land, sea and sky, we thank you for your beautiful creation, and especially for the beauty of this land of Cornwall. And we thank you for the people and the communities that live and visit and work in this land of saints. We thank you for the gifts of creativity and resilience, for the deep sense of belonging that you have given us. And so I invite you in a moment of silence to call to mind a place or a community that's on your heart today and to pray for it. And we pray for the people and the communities that we are each called to serve. And we pray especially for anyone struggling with debt or with housing, for anyone finding it hard to make ends meet. And in a moment of silence, you might like to call to mind a person or a family that are on your heart and to pray for them. And we pray for our young people and for all parents and carers and for our schools. And we pray for everyone enjoying a holiday this week and for those having to work so that others can enjoy their break. And we remember those living with ill health or infirmity, for anyone awaiting medical test results, and for those today who are near death. And in a moment of silence, you might like to call to mind a school or a medical team or a care home and to pray for it. And finally, we pray for the work of this council and for the officers who serve it and all of us. And we ask for the gifts of wisdom, clear minds, and compassionate decision-making. And we pray for one another, for those that we agree with and those we do not, asking that this chamber be a place of rigorous debate for the well-being of all people and for the good of this holy and beautiful land. And so in a final moment of silence, I invite you to pray for others in this chamber today. And finally, I invite you now to gather up all of our prayers, those that have been spoken aloud, the ones that we've each said quietly in our hearts, and those that lie far too deep for words, and in your own language, whatever that might be, to pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. May God bless you all in your work today.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. I've been notified by the following apologies for absence today. Councillors Double, Gardner, George, P. Mitchell, Tom's late arrival, and Whedon. Do we have any others? Yeah. Councillor Ewart?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kirk has taken unwell, so can't make it.
Councillor German?
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Mitchell.
Councillor Donaghue?
Apologies from Councillor Glasson.
Loveday?
Yeah, apologies for early departure. I have to leave for a funeral later on.
What's he called? Right, okay.
Councillor Armand Toms, I believe, is going to be late because he's attending a funeral.
We've done that one. Is there any more? Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. In accordance with the Constitution, I will now take declarations of interest for any members or for any item on the agenda. Will members please indicate any items in which they have interests and the nature of that interest? If you are aware that you have a disclosable pecuniary interest or non-registrable interest in any matter being considered on the agenda today, you must disclose it, whether or not you have already entered it into the register. Councillor German.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just be after your advice, please. On the register of interest, do councillors have to declare any new employment within 28 days?
I'm going to bring the monitoring officer in.
Yes, that is correct. That is the legal position.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Agenda item 4, Chairman's announcements. As this is the last meeting, I would like to say a few thank yous to my Vice Chairman Jordan for his unstinting support in the last 4 years. To Charlie Sims, who has kept my diary full and steered me with ease. To Democratic Services, the whole department have been blimmin' brilliant. But a special mention to Anita, who has always been on the end of a phone with guidance. Yeah. To my partner and wingman David, who has given many of his weekends to support me at numerous events around the Duchy. And of course to you all, to those who have yearly voted to support me to be in this very special role. So I thank you. Being chairman has been amazing. Much of what I have done is about celebrating the good people and achievements around Cornwall. From the off, it was full on with G7, meeting the world leaders from the plains, and the very same day, meeting 3 generations of the royal family off the train. I still can't believe that the Queen dobbed me in. She congratulated me on my BEM when it was still embargoed until 10:30 that night, caused a furore in the lineup. We've seen the Jubilee, the Queen's death, the coronation, and who could forget Armed Forces Weekend? Boy, did we show the world what Cornwall could do. So thank you one and all, it's been a blast. agenda item 5, leaders' announcements.
I think, Chair, we should have got together before we made our announcements. So apologies for some repetition. So good morning to everyone here. It's lovely to see everyone here, and it is the full and final meeting of this council before next month's election, although I probably don't need to say that because you've got 2 weeks of campaigning left. As you know, I will not be returning, so this is my final meeting and my final leaders' announcements. And I would like to reflect on that if you'd be so kind as to indulge me. It has been an honour of my life to represent the people of St Ives East, Leland and Carbis Bay for the past 8 years and to lead this wonderful council for the past 4 years. And I'm proud that I've been the first female leader. I'm also proud of the work that this council and this administration has done collectively. And I want to say, you know, starting with that G7, starting to show the world what Cornwall can do in delivering the big events. And my goodness me, did we deliver. But it also helped as well. We had amazing sunshine. So we saw those world leaders arriving in Carbis Bay, who would have thought? And for many of us who were on that tarmac waiting for Air Force One to arrive, I don't think in our wildest dreams we would have ever thought that that's where we'd be on that particular day, waiting for the start of that G7. We've done incredible work, in my opinion, on housing delivery, and we have stayed financially astute in the most challenging of times. And I particularly want to thank the Deputy Leader, David Harris, for the work that he's done in bringing us forward on the budgets. I want to thank him for the work as well that he's done on leading on Project Cornwall, Langarth and Pydar. So a big thank you, David, thank you. Armed Forces Day in Falmouth, it once again highlighted what we can do as an administration and more importantly, what we did as an authority in delivering what I think will probably have been one of the best Armed Forces Days that anyone will have ever seen. It was an absolutely amazing day, and I think it just reinforced as well what the high respect that we have for our veterans and serving personnel within Cornwall and beyond. I'm personally pleased as well that Cornwall, and I'm looking at Dick Cole here, that we now have a seat on the British-Irish Council when matters relating to Cornwall are discussed. Long overdue, but we've got there. So well done everybody involved in making that happen. We have delivered on our manifesto, and one of the particular manifesto pledges was the 20 miles per hour in those communities that actually wanted to implement. And I know that when we first came in, we were absolutely inundated with requests for those 20 miles an hour. It has been a success. Communities like it, and it will continue. And anything that we can do to save lives on our Cornish roads, make it safer for pedestrians, has got to be taken into consideration. In my opinion, every cabinet member has delivered and improved on the outcomes for our residents. I know that Cornwall has respect from many outside bodies for the work that we do, from active travel, nature recovery, our customer digital programme, through to the connectivity with our public transport. Adult services and children's are all delivering on Start Well, Live Well and Age Well. However, none of these achievements could have been delivered without the senior team of officers and supporting staff that make up Cornwall Council. A massive thank you. And I really do mean that, because we could not achieve without their help, their guidance and their consideration. And I know that that will apply to every single elected member in this chamber, that when you ask, when you want help, when you want guidance, they are there for you. So a huge thank you to Kate and the senior team. Thank you. I would also like to thank Anita and her team. For the Cabinet, for every elected member here, it is a real comfort to know that you can pick the phone up to Anita and her team. You may not like the answer, but you know you're going to get the right answer and one that you should follow and be guided on. So a personal thanks to Anita and her team. And I do want to thank Charlie Sims, who's looked after me for the last 4 years. I can't see her. Oh, right. Charlie, thank you. She's kept my diary. She's kept my diary and she's kept my life sane. So, Charlie, thank you. And all that remains me to say is that I really do wish you the very best of luck going forward, both at the elections and beyond. And I know that despite our differences, I know that we are all here for the same reason, to do the very best we can for the incredible people of Cornwall that we represent. And I know that the next administration will continue to strive to do just that. Thank you.
Agenda item 6, minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of February 2025. I will move that the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday the 25th of February are correctly recorded and they be signed by the Vice Chairman. I will also ask Councillor Wells to second the minutes. Please would you do so?
I'm pleased to second the minutes.
The vote will now be opened. Please vote for, against or abstain using the options on your microphone base, please.
Couple more seconds, members. Vote closed.
And that's carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 7, questions from the public. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that, as agreed by Council, up to 30 minutes be given for questions from the public. Generally, I will be asking the public to read out their questions, although I have decided a different approach to some of the questions today, and I will confirm that decision when we get to that point. Where the member of the public is not present, my Vice Chairman will read the question. Due to being in the pre-election period of heightened sensitivity, I will not be permitting any supplementary questions. Today we have 9 questions. Question 1, this question is from Mr. Lightfoot of Carnan Downs, who is not in attendance, so I'll ask my Vice Chairman to read the question on his behalf.
Can the Council publish all consultation results that have been carried out justifying the 20-mile-per-hour zones?
I'll ask Councillor Donathorne, Cabinet Member for Transport, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lightfoot, for your question. Cornwall Council are reviewing how we deliver 20-mile-an-hour rollouts on our roads across Cornwall, a programme that supports the Council's priority outcomes, casualty reduction and wider targets. 20 mile an hour was one of the 6 manifesto pledges of the current Conservative administration, which was voted for. An early phase of delivery, referred to as Phase 1, was implemented in the community network areas of Falmouth and Penryn and Camelford, and the results from this have helped inform how best to proceed. Based on the positive public response and the speed data demonstrating reductions in the vehicle speeds, the Council's Cabinet then agreed to progress to a Cornwall-wide 20 mile an hour rollout. This rollout is due to be completed in 2026, and for the purpose of delivery, community areas were prioritised into phases based upon collision data, as that was considered the most sensible and fair approach. The following is a list of the consultation we have to date. Phase 1, Falmouth and Penryn, 76% support, and Camelford cap area, 85% support. Phase 2, CPIR, there was 67% support, Truro and the Roseland, 77% support, and West Penwith with 85% support. Phase 3, China Clay, 64%, Cornwall Gateway, 36%. The majority of the objections there were related to Saltash and Tor Point, and these areas were implemented with a revised 20 mile an hour extent following the consultation feedback. Hale and St Ives, 77% support. St Austell and Mevergizzy, 44% support, 90% of that received for areas outside of St Austell. When all responses are combined, this equates to 44% total for the community area, whereas the wider areas are progressing, St Austell will be reconsulted with revised extents. At the time of when these speaker notes were being written, the reconsultation is not yet undertaken. Newquay and St Column, 61%, and the Scard and Lou, at the time of writing, the consultation data is being collated, and therefore it's not available now, but that can be shared. Phases 4 and 5, at the time of writing, public consultation has not yet been undertaken for those areas, but I will say all consultation responses have been reviewed in detail with amendments made to the 20 mile an hour extents where they have been required. And I think that does show that consultation has been taken and listened to. And I've been able to point to some of those points in my response today. And just lastly, Madam Chairman, Cornwall Council recently published a survey linked with the refresh of our road casualty reduction strategy, a really important piece of work, where 82% of respondents felt that adhering to speed limits was a very important factor in making roads safer for everyone. So when those phases where I said that the consultation data wasn't yet available, I'm sure we'll be able to make that public in due course.
Thank you. Question number 2. This question is from Mr. Egerton of Grandpound, who is not in attendance, so I'll ask my Vice Chairman to read the question.
Truro Park and Ride prices are up 4 to 6%. City centre car park prices frozen. Please explain the logic.
I'll ask Councillor Donathorne, Cabinet Member for Transport, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It does feel fitting that my last question, public question on transport, is from Mr. Egerton. So I will respond to him happily. In 2023-24, a parking tariff review took place that standardised the approach of parking prices across Cornwall, and this also included integration with the park and ride prices. Following this comprehensive change in tariffs and acknowledging the number of budget proposals in the 25-26 budget linked to our car parks, it was decided not to add inflation rise to tariffs for 2025. With regards to the attractiveness of the park and ride, we are confident that with the prices and the products available for park and ride users, there is an incentive for many to use the service, and this is also evident in the increasing patronage figures. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3 is from Mr. Smith of St Mabon, who has asked that my Vice Chairman read on his behalf.
Regarding the appointment of Councillor Gardner to Head of Air and Space, does the Corserve shareholder agree with the North Cornwall MP Ben Maguire, who has deep concerns about transparency, integrity and public trust? And if the shareholder does not agree, then why not?
I'll ask the Leader to reply.
Thank you. The shareholder has sought and received assurances from Corserve regarding the nature of the appointment. We understand that this was subject to a proper and impartial selection process, which included public advertisements of the role, shortlisting based on qualifications and structured interviews. Whilst this appointment was itself not within the scope of the principles of public appointments, it met the requirements of the Nolan principles.
Thank you. Question 4. The following question was submitted by 3 people: Mr. Osmond of Constantine, Miss Cuff of Delabole and Miss Fleet of Bodmin. On that basis, I took the decision that my Vice Chairman will read it. Councillor Rouse.
In light of the ongoing genocide enacted in Gaza and the ICC's recognition of its criminality, will the Council demand that Lord Hutton resign his directorship of the Israeli-owned military supplier Pearson Engineering as a precondition for his continued leadership of the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Economic Forum?
Ask the Leader to reply.
Thank you. So thank you for the question. Firstly, I want to make it clear that Cornwall Council does not endorse or support genocide in Gaza or anywhere else. Also, I would like to remind everyone that the UK foreign policy is not within the remit of Cornwall Council or any other local authority. This is an area of policy rightly led by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I am aware that the previous monitoring officer was in touch with Lord Hutton direct earlier in the year when this issue was first raised, and has received assurances that Pearson Engineering does not and never has provided any military equipment to the Israeli Defence Forces for use in Gaza or anywhere else, and that any suggestion that Pearson is involved in any actions that might be considered unlawful, either under international public law or under UK law, is completely without foundation. This assurance is also provided by Pearson Engineering on their website. Lord Hutton has a clearly defined role within the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Economic Forum, and we are grateful that he's able to bring his expertise and qualities to the forum as its chair. I have every confidence that he will continue to make a valuable contribution to the forum and what it seeks to achieve. The monitoring officer has advised me that Lord Hutton's personal business interests are a matter for him, and the assurance Lord Hutton has provided is welcome. The activities of the Economic Forum are no way related to the conflict in Gaza, and it is absolutely not accepted that having Lord Hutton as the chair of the Economic Forum means the council is providing tacit social licence for genocide. I would like to conclude by categorically refuting the suggestion that the council is complicit in genocide. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, for the next 4 questions, the same answer will be provided. On that basis, I've taken the decision that my Vice Chairman will read all 4 questions, and then the Chairman of the Pensions Committee will respond. I'll now hand over to my Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Question number 5 was submitted by Mrs. Bennett of Truro, and Council will note that this is the same question also submitted by Mr. Bennett of Truro. The question is, in light of the ongoing mass slaughter of Palestinian civilians by the Israeli army, how does this council morally justify its ongoing investments using its citizens' council tax payments in arms to Israel without their knowledge or consent? Question number 6 was submitted by Mr. Hilly of Truro and is as follows. Cornwall Pension Fund investments. Will Cornwall Council ensure that all councillors involved in making investment decisions on its behalf avoid providing financial assistance to any state guilty of serially contravening international law, imposing policies of occupation, apartheid, collective punishment and forced starvation, and breaching the Geneva Convention? Question number 7 was submitted by Mr. Baines of Truro and is as follows. In light of our local MPs' grave concerns at actions by the Israeli government and defence forces, will the Council review its policies on pension investments and official representation to ensure it is not complicit in genocide? Question number 8 was submitted by Mr. Newman of Redruth, and is as follows. This Council is currently investing some of my council tax in companies enabling illegal acts of genocide in Gaza. Do councillors agree that this is an okay use of public funds in this way? Thank you.
I will now ask Councillor Mike Thomas, Chairman of the Pensions Committee, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I give my answer to the questions, I'd like to thank those people who submitted their questions. I'd also to point out that the members, the 12 members of the committee, do recognise the seriousness and sensitivity of this topic. Cornwall Council administers the local government pension scheme in Cornwall, and Cornwall Council is one of 145 employers who make pension contributions into the fund for its employees as part of the employees' overall remuneration. Therefore, the information provided in this response is in relation to the Cornwall Pension Fund, not Cornwall Council. I repeat, the Cornwall Pension Fund, not Cornwall Council. The Cornwall Pension Fund is highly regulated, which means it's controlled by His Majesty's government and acts within its legal and fiduciary duties. And for the interests of transparency, a fiduciary duty is a legal and ethical obligation for an individual or entity to act in the best interests of another party, prioritising their welfare over their own. This duty arises in relationships of trust and confidence, such as between a lawyer and a client, a trustee and a beneficiary. Fiduciaries are expected to act with loyalty, good faith, care and prudence in managing the affairs of their beneficiaries. The pension fund has a legal duty to provide for members' benefits, whose monies the pension fund is and must exercise its power of investment for investment purposes, having diversified investment portfolio and doing what is best for the financial position of the fund. These are not council investments. It is not appropriate for investment decisions to be driven directly by the political views of pension committee members due to the fiduciary duty it has. As part of the Brunel Pension Partnership, we do not invest in controversial weapons, and we expect all our fund managers And the definition of a fund manager is not an individual, it is a collection of people to invest in line with the United Nations Global Compact. We also insist that companies comply with all legal requirements and the duty to respect all internationally recognised human rights, including the obligations of the Modern Slavery Act in the UK and the United Nations Guiding Principles of Business Human Rights. Through its equity and bond holdings at 31st December 2024, the fund had 0.34%, I repeat, 0.34% of its diversified investment portfolio in the aerospace and defence sector. We live in a highly globalised world where supply chains are often extremely complex, with large multinational companies generating revenue streams from a wide variety of activities and sources, including from companies operating in the UK and NATO member countries. The Local Government Pension Scheme Advisory Board has sought advice on behalf of the Local Government Pension Scheme, which can be found on its website. One of the findings was that merely to make an ordinary investment in a company will not, in normal circumstances, amount to assistance in that company's activities. Still less will it amount to assistance in the commission of the criminal acts, if any take place, of a person to whom that company supplies goods and services as part of its business. A detailed statement on Israel-Palestine can be found in the Responsible Investment section of the Cornwall Pension Fund website. There is also a detailed listing of all the investments the fund holds, which is updated quarterly in the investment section of the fund's website. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Question number 9. This question is from Mr. Elliott of Truro, who is joining us via Teams today. Welcome, Mr. Elliott. Please read your question as submitted. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, full council, and all officers, and all astronauts in the chamber. My question is foundationed on the bedrock of required standards in democracy from Lord Justice Nolan.
Mr. Elliott, can you please read the question you submitted?
Thank you, Leader. Chair, I apologise. Does the Leader of Cornwall Council believe that the Nolan principles of honesty, objectivity, accountability, selflessness, openness, leadership, and integrity must apply to all members of her Cornwall Council Cabinet at all times? Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask the Leader to reply.
Thank you, Chair. The general principles of public life are required to form the basis of the Code of Conduct for all councillors in England. And as this is reflected in the Code of Conduct adopted by Cornwall Council, all councillors agree to act in accordance with the requirements of the Code of Conduct, and as the Leader of the Council, I've always sought to ensure that all councillors adhere to the provisions of the Code when they are acting in their official capacity.
Thank you.
So why didn't they?
Agenda item 8.1, alignment of Cornwall Health and Wellbeing Board and Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Partnership. I'll ask Councillor Jordan to propose and Councillor Wells to second the recommendations that are set out on page 21 of the agenda pack. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for your 4 years of hard work for this council and everyone else for all your hard work. And thank the committee for their hard work. It has been hard grind sometimes, but thank you all. Anyway, this relates to the proposed cessation of the Joint Health and Wellbeing Board between Cornwall Council and the Council of the Isles of Scilly, so that once again each authority will have its own statutory health and wellbeing board, and the proposed alignment of the Cornwall Council Health and Wellbeing Board and the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Partnership. The statutory functions of both Health and Wellbeing Board and the Integrated Care Partnership, including the strategy for which they are responsible, are inextricably linked, and the membership of both forums remain the same. Therefore, to ensure better integration and the lack of duplication, it is proposed that the Cornwall Health and Wellbeing Board and the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Partnership are aligned as a committee in common under one term of reference. And most people will have read the recommendations on page 21, so I'll move recommendation 1 and recommendation 2 as they stand, Madam Chair.
Councillor Wells.
I'm happy to second the motion as set out. It does, as the chairman of the committee has suggested, remove any duplication, and it is a straightforward proposal. Thank you.
Please raise your hand if you wish to speak or ask a question. Councillor Fairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I expressed my concerns. I'm on the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I did express my concern to the excellent work that board does around prevention and awareness of what prevention can do for the health of our residents might get lost if these boards are integrated. Since I received reassurances on the day that this wouldn't be the case and prevention would be key to every decision they made. However, I am also concerned now that the government have decided to withdraw some of the support for integrated care boards, and I feel that, again, this will put our own health and wellbeing strategy, which is primarily based on what prevention measures would be best for the health of our citizens, at risk again. And I'm not going to make any amendments or anything, but I just wanted to express those concerns publicly. I do feel that the excellent prevention work that the Health and Wellbeing Board did on implementing our own strategy, I fear it will get lost.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Councillor Conway.
Thank you. As we are well aware, please accept my apologies.
Is that Richard Branson?
Unfortunately, it's not Richard Branson, but please accept my apologies for that. I just want to...
Can we have some quiet, please?
Just want to make people, as you're no doubt all fully aware, National Health England is going to be abolished. Now, my question is, or my concern is this going to have an adverse effect on anything we're doing with these boards? Because if we approve this at this current time, we cannot go back and revisit it for 6 months. So we've all been dragged down here with this end of term meeting, and this seems to be about the only item on the agenda, and it's something that could well and would much better have been left for the new council to consider, hopefully when the National Health Service reforms will be known what they are, and if that then falls within the correct remit of the various boards, or does it need to be amended? I would also just like to remind people that 30% of Cornish residents use Devon hospitals, and the Tamar is still a problem. Yes, you've heard me say it before. You'll hear me say it again. Hopefully, if I'm a councillor, you hear me say it again as a councillor for Cornwall. If not, I will continue shouting from Lanson. But we must remember the Tamar is there, but people need to cross it, and the two counties need to be completely at one with their computer systems and everything, so they can work together. But I'm just asking, why could we not have left this till the new council to consider towards the end of May, when hopefully we'd be in a bit better position to look at the whole England National Health Service. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask you to please support the recommendations. I'm the Joint Chair of the Health and Wellbeing, and I absolutely endorse the concerns that have been raised by Councillor Fairman. But if you look at the recommendations, they are being, the final decision in 1 is being left to the monitoring officer, and in 2, that is being left to our Strategic Director for Care and well-being. And I think you all know that that decision-making process could not be in safer hands. It's unfortunate that the changes to the NHS are coming right at the end of our administration, and there is a timetable, and we do not have control of that timetable. So please support the recommendations. It's in good hands. Thank you.
If there's no more questions, I'll ask Councillor Jordan, do you want to sum up, or should we go to the vote?
I think the leader said everything, Madam Chair.
Okay. The vote will now be opened. Please vote for, against, abstain using the options on your microphone base. The system's not working, so we're going to have to unfortunately use a show of hands. So those for, those against. Any abstentions? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Agenda 8.2, operation of provisions relating to special urgency and call-in. I'll ask Councillor Jordan to propose and Councillor Wells to second the recommendation set out on page 37 of the agenda pack. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is an annual requirement that the Constitution and Governance Committee support a report to Council on the operations of the provision of relating to urgency and call-in. Since the committee meeting on the 6th of March, I can confirm that the total number of executive decisions has increased from 153 to 17th of April 2024, when it was last reported to Council. The number has increased for this time yesterday to 197. Everything's going pear-shaped here, just a second. And the urgency proceeding has now been used 11 times compared to 7 reported previously. There have been no further call-in requests. The urgency procedure has now been used 11 times compared to 7 previously reported at C&G, which 7 were for grants compared to 4 reported at C&G. In the C&G report, it was confirmed that 5 decisions were made under general exception 2 of the special urgency. This is now increased to 9, with the latter staying at 2. The recommendation stated on page 37 of your agenda pack, and members should be assured that the committee did not consider, based on facts, that any changes to the provision required. Therefore, Madam Chairman, I move the recommendation set out.
Councillor Wells.
I'm happy to second the recommendation as set out.
If you have a question, do you please put your hand up? Councillor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in relation to Article 24 on the decision making, and it concerns the amount of discretion allocated in the sum of £500,000 for operational or capital expenditure allocated to the Chief Executive and officers. It is this. In my experience,
Councillor Desmond, I'm not sure this is relevant to what we are discussing at the moment. Is the question about special urgency and call-in?
yes, it is.
Okay, we'll let you carry on.
It is the need to be able to apply a call-in procedure on sums which are going to be markedly less than £500,000 when there is an enormous risk of that sum being inadvertently used for purposes that relate to capital and or operational expenditure by officers. Would the committee agree that this procedure under Article 4 for call-in can be reviewed?
Shall I bring Councillor Jordan back in if there's no other questions? Leader, are you wanting to have anything to say? You're looking at me.
I don't really know if I can really add much, but you know, this is the constitution that we work with. This has been approved through full council. So my only suggestion would be that this would be something that could be looked at by a new administration, but it's worked incredibly well to date, with full agreement of the full council.
Okay. Councillor Conway.
Thank you. Note the leader's comments that, that the constitution could be looked at by the new council. Therefore, I'm happy to propose an amendment, and the amendment that after the word assessment, the words that no changes to the provisions are currently required are deleted, and that would then leave the matter open for the new council to consider it from day one and not have to wait 6 months before it happened. So I'm not saying there's anything need doing, but if you delete those words from the end of it, it just means that the new council isn't fettered by what this council is saying. So I'm proposing it. If someone would be happy to second it, I'd be very happy, and if you'd be happy to vote for it, I'd be even happier. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Is it acceptable to you, Monitoring Officer?
Thank you, Chairman. So the usual course of action in respect of a recommendation from the Constitution and Governance Committee would be that that would be remitted back to the committee if it requires further consideration. Having said that, no council can fetter the discretion of a following administration. So to my mind, the amendment isn't required because the new administration could look at this anyway. This is purely a record of the findings of the Constitution and Governance Committee as per the report and the minutes. Thank you.
Councillor Jordan, do you accept this?
I don't accept the amendment, Madam Chairman. I move as was stand. I'm surprised that Councillor Desmond asked that question because I didn't think it was relevant, and I'm quite happy to move the recommendation as it stands.
Councillor Conway, do you wish to stand down your amendment?
No, I would like it to be taken, please.
Speakers on the amendment.
It's sort of a point for clarification. So if I understand what the monitoring officer just said, if we'd been making this resolution 6 months ago, it would have prevented this administration from looking at it for a further 6 months until now. But if this outgoing council makes this decision today, the new council, when they arrive on the 1st of May, have got a blank slate and they can look at it straight away. Is that what you're saying? Because if it is, then I think we've achieved what we need without your amendment. Thank you.
This is starting to become a little bit obtuse, but I get the question. So, as I said before, any administration can review the Constitution. That is open. I think the point of what I was trying to say was that in the ordinary course of events, such a change to a recommendation should be remitted back to the committee for consideration. That would be more appropriate. I don't think that the removal of the words change the position in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe the amendment is necessary.
So, Councillor Conway, you are still adamant that you want to go with this amendment, do you?
Having heard the assurances that the new council, which will be in place from the 3rd, 4th of May, whenever it is, it would be able from day one to review this matter, I'm happy to withdraw my amendment. The point I'm just trying to make is that we mustn't fetter the new council, and that's exactly what I've been assured by the monitoring officer that this doesn't do, so I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Councillor Jordan, is there anything else you want to add?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we will now go to the vote. The vote will now be opened. Please vote for, against, abstain, using the options on the microphone base.
Couple more seconds, members. Vote closed, thank you.
And that's carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, questions from members to members of the Cabinet. Members will be aware that Council agreed that a period of 60 minutes be allocated for questions to members of Cabinet. Members are not required to give advance notice of their questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question and you wish to Councillor Rouse to take your name. Please can you keep your hand up so that we make sure that nobody is missed. Each member must identify which Cabinet member their question is for, and they will be able to ask one supplementary question based on their original question or response. In accordance with the Council's decision in January 2023 on supplementary questions, any member wishing to put one will have 30 seconds to do so. Questions should relate to the duties of the Council and the specific remits of Cabinet portfolios. I'd ask that the questions and responses are kept in brief as possible, so many members as possible have the opportunity to ask their question. I would appreciate it if, as far as possible, members refrain from asking parochial questions, as these can be dealt with more appropriately outside of the meeting. Any questions that cannot be dealt with in the 60 minutes can, of course, be raised with the Cabinet member outside the meeting. I'd also ask members that we came dangerously close to no longer being quorum at the last meeting. So can I urge as many of you as possible to stay until the close of business to ensure that all members have the chance to ask their questions. Okay. Councillor Crabtree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Mould. Why can a member of the public report that a whole road has been missed from the waste collection and Biffa go out and collect the rubbish from the road the next day, when councillors who report the same thing through casework assist are told us to tell all the residents to report a missed collection individually and thereby generate more work for the admin team?
Ask Councillor Mould to reply.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Crabtree. So, whilst if you want to report a missed collection, you can add a comment that your whole street has been missed, although that might be checked up, it won't actually be logged in that way, because actually what we're interested in is the individual properties, and that's the information that we require. So if there is a comment that the whole street is in there, it will be checked and may well Biffa will go out there. But casework assist is literally for our members, and it is the singular household. And I know it sounds a rather convoluted way of doing things, but it actually works better that way because we get the right information from the right. And that was actually quite a good thing, wasn't it? The Biffa went out the next day and collected the whole street, because somebody had checked it and they'd realised they'd made a mistake. So whilst I am very proud of our rollout, and I think we all should be as a council, the way that this has been rolled out, we've all played our part in making sure it's a success. We do get bumps in the road, and I'm really pleased to see that we've got to the bottom of that one and the whole street was corrected. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please. And I did give Councillor Mull forewarning of this. This was the last week for collecting the old bins. I've still got residents still waiting for collections of bins. Do we know when that's going to happen, please?
Councillor Mould.
If you have asked for your bin to be collected and it hasn't been collected, then that needs obviously an apology to go out and a reminder needs to be sent. So if we just have to contact them again and say, please, can you contact the bin? Failing that, and the waste team will pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bunny.
Thank you, Chair. I think my question is to the leader, and I wanted to start by saying thank you, Linda, for all your hard work for Cornwall over the last 4 years. It is very much appreciated. And on a personal level, I want to thank you as well, particularly for your support with the Royal Cornwall Museum and our work for the Celtic Nations. And I remember Lorient very fondly. It's been a pleasure to work together. And my question is about young people and children. And nothing could be more important than our responsibility to look after children and young people in Cornwall. But I think it's also important that we think internationally as well. And my thoughts are particularly, for example, with the children of Palestine and Ukraine, thinking of the terrible dangers that they face. And I'm conscious that we, as individuals and as a council, have signed up for the UN Declaration of the Rights of the Child. And I want to ask about our investments, not just the pension fund. And I want to ask, what action is the council taking to ensure that our investments are ethical and do not play a role in supporting military actions that harm children? Thank you very much.
Leader.
Councillor Bunny, thank you. And I just want to say it's been an absolute delight working with you as well. So thank you very much. And it just shows as well, when you've got one ambition, and that's to make a difference for Cornwall, you can work exceptionally well together. So thank you. The question to your answer is, I would need to get a full written answer, because I know that any investments we make are ethically governed, and we do have particular guidelines. So I can't give you an absolute answer, but I will very happily get a written response that I think needs to be shared with every single member, so they can see the responsibility that we take in relation to this. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Just to say thank you, and a written answer for all members would be much appreciated. Thank you, Miraz Braz.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Monk, and it relates to housing and council housing and land. Cornwall Council put out a request for land. I just wondered how much we got back from that, and how many people did get their land assessed. We don't have many council houses in North Cornwall that are being proposed. I just wondered, because we have quite a few people waiting for housing, I wondered if Councillor Monk could perhaps identify areas where we might be getting some council houses or local housing need. And in the Camelford area with the border issue, when can we see the planning applications for the housing being approved, please, if you could answer those? I know it might take some time, but thank you.
That's awfully parochial. I will let it go because it's the last meeting, but, you know.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Jordan, for your question. The call for sites, I think you were referring to, has identified the potential, if all the sites were indeed suitable and you could build on them, would provide 18,000 homes across Cornwall. And given against the backdrop of the new housing targets that we've received from the government, which is up to 2050 about 80,000 homes, so you can see that our call for sites has produced 18,000. There's still a significant amount of extra land that needs to be identified and found to meet the current government's targets. So there's still quite a lot of land out there. With regards to North Cornwall, we know we've been hampered by the phosphate issues in the Camel and the Camel catchment area, and it's been very, very painstaking to work a way forward to find mitigation that's suitable to natural England, to make sure that phosphates are removed from the river as part of any increase in building work in that area. So housing overall over the next few years will come forward with what Cornwall Council and the next local plan was going to produce, but also you're going to get more speculative applications coming through with the new government targets, because it means our local plan for the next couple of years is going to be out of date, and until we get a new local plan with a proven land supply, does leave us open to some speculative development. Hopefully some of that will fit within North Cornwall and provide some of the much needed housing that you need up there. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary? Non-parochial?
No, thank you, Madam Chairman. That was a good answer.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. It's a question for the leader. You might deputise it to others in your team. So the Council's business plan sets out our overarching mission, working with communities for a carbon neutral Cornwall, where everyone can start well, live well and age well. 4 years ago you inherited a policy of the Council that we are committed to doing everything we can to be carbon neutral by 2030. That's less than 5 years away now. And in the last budget, you've cut the budget for climate-related activity. The justification for that is that every department is now doing their carbon reduction measures themselves. Can you or any of your cabinet members tell us how much money they need to be able to actually reach that target of net zero?
Leader.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Martin. I am going to defer to Councillor Olvey, if that's okay, to give a response. But I'm just going to say something. I don't think any local authority has sufficient funding to reach those targets as things stand at the moment. And if I may, I'd like to go to Councillor Olvey to finish off for me. Thank you.
Councillor Olvey.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for the question, Councillor Martin. I think the key point here is to recognise that every department in the council has a function in this, whether it's adult social care, having measures in place to ensure that domiciliary carers minimise their travel through clustering, where individual schools that we have within the council's portfolio, within their governing boards are taking action, and on a more strategic level, where we can draw down funding for decarbonisation of the schools through, for example, the fitting of solar panels. Within the core council business, so the customers team, the activity that is being taken to bring more online, to reduce staff travel, all of these factors play into that net zero target. Of course, the other big implement that we have now at our disposal is the local area energy plan, which when we gave our commitment to carbon neutrality by 2030, along with many other councils back in January 2019, then went on 6 months later to produce a plan. That plan was basically, we bought ourselves a map on which we plotted net zero, but we didn't really have an idea where the roads were, or indeed what barriers, such as rivers, we were going to have to cross, where bridges needed to be built. In getting the local area energy...
Madam Chairman, the question was about the figures. Are we going to get an answer or not, or are we just going to talk out the time?
I'm happy to give my supplementary now. Thank you. I think I've heard enough.
Yep, supplementary.
It's clear that no one in this administration, I totally agree with the leader, we don't have enough money. No council has enough money to do this. But after 4 years, you don't even know how much money you need. That's the problem. The question I asked was, how much money do you need to get there? And we can go around doing little token projects here and there, but if you don't even know how much money you need, you don't even know how much you need to ask for. So the question is, do you as the leader think that there is any possibility at all that Cornwall will be carbon neutral by 2030?
Councillor Alvey?
Right, that was to the leader. Do you think
Leader.
Cornwall will be net zero, carbon neutral by 2030?
I believe that the council could be. I don't believe Cornwall can be.
I'm delighted to hear all these phones going off. Every time they go off is a £5 towards the chairman's charity. So I'll see you later, and you of Mr Conway. Councillor Guest.
Recommendations shift these chairs. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Harris. As this is my last full council before riding off into the sunset, feel free to say "ah" or whatever. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Could you update members on the Mid-Cornwall Metro, please? Both I and Councillor Giles have spoken on and followed this project keenly. Councillor Giles particularly on the importance of the lift bridge at Parr Station, and I've been an advocate and supporter of the traffic enhancements in and around Roach and Bugle. Is the Mid-Cornwall Metro on time and on budget, and can our residents look forward to some good news on these matters?
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Sorry? Come on, what?
Please give me some good news.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, this isn't parochial, is it, Chair?
Councillor Guest, I also am riding off into the sunset. I'm delighted to tell you that the last meeting of the Mid-Cornwall Metro Oversight Board, or whatever we call it, everything was reported as being on time, on or within budget, and therefore, as of today, we still find a huge great hole in the ground that causes a problem. But as of today, I can see no reason whatsoever why the lifting bridge at Parr cannot be delivered. Madam Chair, may I please have 2 cream buns later?
Do you have a supplementary?
No, just thank the Deputy Leader for his answer and hope that there isn't a hole in the ground somewhere along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor. Councillor Fairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have in front of me the very impressive CV of of one of the 27 applicants, and this is a question to the leader, for the role of Head of Future Air and Space. They have 30 years' experience in aviation and maritime, 3 separate degrees in management and engineering, and real-world experience in delivery and transformational change for major projects. This was the first job application they'd made where they did not make the shortlist. They applied on the 30th of July last year and heard absolutely nothing until the 7th of October, when they were simply told that their application would not be taken forward. The same month that the successful applicant was selected from a field of 1. Notwithstanding the earlier responses you gave to the public questions, and in light of this information, would you not agree with me that this deeply flawed and quite frankly sullied appointment process conducted by Corserve on our behalf now brings the reputation of the whole of this council into disrepute?
Leader.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Femin. I don't really know how to answer this because I'm looking at the monitoring officer, because I don't know anything about what you're referring to in relation to this application, and I was clearly not involved in the process, but I am aware that the whole process, and I keep looking at the monitoring officer to make sure, has been looked at and is being looked at. And I have noted what you've said. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Just to say thank you for that response, and I will hold you to that is being looked at while I'm still in a position to do so.
Point of order, please.
Councillor Rushworth, what is your point of order?
My point of order is, yesterday we received a letter from the monitoring officer stating that the press had reported that a certain councillor had been arrested. We're basing your things on there. Have you got proof?
Not a point of order.
Told.
It's not a point of order.
Not a point of order. Well, you're restricting what questions people are going to ask on that. Oh,
Shall I come in to clarify? I don't think I used those words. I think it's just helpful for me just to make a quick comment on that. That's not a point of order, as the Chairman was just about to rule. Okay? So, and the question that Councillor Femin asked was about an appointment process. It didn't relate to any police investigation, so the question was valid. Thank you.
Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chairman. My question's to Councillor Harris, and I have sent him this question in advance. And my question to him is, how much deeper in debt is this council today compared to when he first took office?
Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Barnes, and I do appreciate your giving me advance notice of this question. Really. At 31st of March 2021, this council's net debt, that's gross debt less investments, was £505 million. At 31st of March 2025, the equivalent figure is £1 billion. So that's a difference of £500 million. Now, what I've done in the brief time since you asked me the question is look at what makes that difference up, because that's the key thing. Because otherwise you're going to sit there and say, whoa, you've spent all this money, you dozy lot. Within that extra expenditure is £64 million on Langarth, £115 million in term loans to Treveth, to enable Treveth to deliver the sort of housing we want in Cornwall. On housing, there's £74 million into the Housing General Fund capital programme. There was also £22 million, some of you may remember this, the private rented accommodation buying thing set up by the previous council, Councillor Andrew Mitchell in particular. There's £63 million into the waste contract. There's also, and I've not got figures for these, essential infrastructure, highways, schools, buildings. So yes, it has gone up, but look at what we spent it on. There's two other comments I would make, one of which I've made before, which is we all recognise our level of borrowings, which is why in this year's budget we actually reduced the limit. It talks about the ratio between our financing costs and our net revenue budget. That limit had been put up to 11% at the end of the last administration. We have reduced it to 9% as kind of a marker to make sure we keep within limits, because the real issue isn't the total amount of the borrowing. If you're looking at numbers and economics, is it affordable? And the answer is yes, and I've said this in different places in different ways. We can afford it. We have balanced this year's budget. We're not putting up council tax by 7, 10, God knows what percent, as some councils are, to cover their profligate borrowings. And one interesting fact I found, and this sort of made me smile, so I'll share it with you. When you looked at the budget papers in February 2021, presented by the previous administration, they were forecasting gross debt at 31st of March 24 of £1.489 million. The gross debt at 31st of March 24, after 3 years of fools like me being there, was actually £1.265 million. So we'd somehow reduced that by £200 million. Hopefully, Councillor Barnes, in relation to your last question to me in council, I've given you a comprehensive answer.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, madam. Do you not feel, although some people might call it hindsight, that it would have been better to have put some more of that money into the actual services that this council has provided and now can't do because you've spent this money?
Councillor Barnes, we cannot borrow capital to provide revenue services. It is as simple as that. If we could, in a way it would be great, but what would happen would be that in 2 or 3 years' time we'd go totally bust. So, to answer your straight question, do I think that? No, I do not.
No, you can't. Councillor Dwelly.
It's a point of
you've
order,
had your supplementary.
It's a point of order.
What is your point of order?
The point of order was if they hadn't spent the money on other things.
That's not a point of order.
It's not a point of order. Used.
Councillor Dwelly.
Thank you, Chair. On a lighter note, this is a housing question for you, Ollie Monk. And in answering, you might wish to confirm that you have better eyebrows than me. And I will come to why I'm asking you that, because when the leader said that one of the great achievements in this last 4 years was affordable housing delivery, your eyebrows went up. Can I ask you to confirm that in this administration, the number of affordable homes last year was 674, which was the lowest figure in 10 years, and that we've gone from first, second or third as a deliverer of affordable housing as a local authority down to 9th. Can you please put the leader right on the statement she made? Thank you.
Councillor Monk.
Thank you. About my eyebrow question to start with, I wasn't sure where that was going, but point taken. Maybe I did raise my eyebrows, maybe I didn't, who knows. And if it was being filmed, you could probably look back and see my eyebrows raising. The figure I've got for last year is 752 affordable housing. And of course, affordable housing and social housing is something that we all deeply care about, and we all know we need a lot more of it. When we came into this administration, we inherited a Cornwall housing that went straight into administration, straight into special measures, which of course shut off a lot of the Homes England funding that we were expecting to be able to get. And it's only through our diligence and hard work over the last 3 to 4 years that we've managed to get ourselves out of special measures, reconnect with the registered providers, and be able to start rebuilding and putting it back on an even keel, which will give the next administration a great start into the next 4 years to really get those figures jumped up. And I quite often hear that we were at the top of the table and we've gone down. But when you look at the delivery of the people who've overtaken us, it's often inner city areas who've thrown up a block of flats or two in a 3 or 4 year period and given a very rapid boost to their figures that they don't maintain over a long period of time. So I get where he's coming from. I understand what he's saying, and I know that any administration that's coming in, affordable housing and social housing will be at the top of any priority, indeed, as it's been with us. And he did ask me another question, and I can't quite remember it. So if he wants to restate it.
Shall I come in with my follow-up? Yes, thank you, Ollie. I'll call you if you don't mind. But you didn't really answer the question because you were talking about housing management and Cornwall housing. I was talking about building new affordable homes, and I said that this council has gone from a high level nationally to 9th. Therefore, the question is, do you agree with the leader that your delivery of new affordable housing has been something to be proud of?
Councillor Monk.
Yeah, I think we've consistently delivered a high number of affordable housing, and as I previously said, the areas that have overtaken us seem to be throwing up blocks of flats here and there, which has skewed the table, if you will. They won't maintain that consistent delivery over that period of time. This administration has continued to build and plan and deliver a pipeline of affordable housing indeed in this time, despite very challenging circumstances with the cost of living crisis, Ukraine and all that, getting ourselves out of special measures to really clear the decks and be able to start rebuilding. And despite that, we've still delivered consistently, I think, reasonably high amounts of social housing. So I'm very, very proud and back up what the leader has said. And I look forward to the next administration being able to take some of the credit for that.
Thank you. Councillor German.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Inner cities couldn't build flats 4 years ago or before that. What a load of nonsense. No, it's not, because obviously inner cities could build flats 4 or 10
German,
years
what's
ago
your question?
when we were number one. My question's to the Deputy Leader, David. The leader thanked you for your great work around the multi-million PIDAR site. It's been transferred to Treveth through an individual decision. So without disclosing any figures, we know that an individual decision has to be less than 500,000. So transferring a multi-million pound site to Treveth for less than £500,000, is this an indication of how successful you have been at delivering the PIDAR scheme? Thank you.
Councillor Harris.
It's a very carefully phrased question, Councillor German. I need to think about my answer because some of this is in part 2, so I have to be careful. Sorry, Councillor Dwelly, you're scratching your head, you're gesturing at me. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm leaning, pardon? I'm leaning into the mic already, is that better? Sorry, PIDAR is a difficult site, and there's no argument. I actually can't remember where in the end we got to on the value of this. We have been prudent in it. One of the reasons for transferring it from Cornwall Council into PIDAR LLP was to ensure there was no issue with grants we have received on it. And it has to go across at a current valuation. So in terms of numbers, there is probably or possibly a book loss, but I'm not within a Part 1 meeting, I don't think, allowed to speak about that.
Thank you. And I think you've expressed some concerns previously, Councillor Harris, about how the council operates. And my understanding of the PIDAR site was that a grant was received and we knew that the council couldn't receive that it had to be transferred some year, 18 months ahead, but we only managed to transfer on the day, the last day possible. Would you like to comment on that?
Councillor Harris.
Yes. And the short answer is, and I'll make it publicly here, and the Chief Executive and the Chief Operating Officer know where I'm coming from with this comment, that one of my open criticisms of the way we work within this building and with our groups of companies is that we get too involved in, not legalities, in the detail of issues such as this. And we end up almost with people sometimes just, I won't say point scoring off each other, but not recognising that we're all in one group. And, you know, those to my right will recognise the expression. Just please get on with it. So, Councillor German, you actually raise a good point, and it is something much more importantly than my view, one that our new Chief Operating Officer has said, and indeed the Chief Executive, have said very, very clearly that they want to address going forward at speed.
We've still got 11 speakers, so if we can sort of like make sure that supplementary is a little bit curt. Councillor McKenna.
Madam Chair, thank you. This is a question for Councillor Donithorne. He's taking a sip of water. It's not particularly complicated, Connor. The second public question today mentioned the fact that car park prices in Truro have been frozen. I'm not sure whether that's the case or not, but if it is that a decision which has been taken as with the rest of car park prices, which is difficult to change until probably February when the next charges are considered? But is it true that car park prices in Truro this year have been frozen? And my supplementary to save time is, if that is the case, why is that not being considered for other towns which have more need of reduced car park prices? Thank you.
Councillor Donithorne.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna, for your question. To answer both in one fell swoop, this administration have frozen car parking charges across the board in Cornwall in 2025. So it's not just Truro, it's all of our car parks.
Councillor Painter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick question to Councillor Monk. There seem to be rumours circulating yet again about councils up country buying up social or affordable homes in Cornwall. Can you confirm or deny this is happening, please? Thank you.
Councillor Monk.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Payson, for your question. It's the age-old question, isn't it? Oh, the housing people from Birmingham, etc., etc., etc. And we've had it ever since I became a councillor. And the answer to the question is absolutely not. And logically, if you think about it, if you're a council in, well, Birmingham's probably not the best example right now, but if you're a local authority elsewhere, why would you spend all that extra money in building and buying houses in Cornwall when they're cheaper in your local area to house local people there? That is not to say that we don't get a very, very small amount of people who are moving into this county because they may be fleeing domestic violence, etc. And equally, we have people from Cornwall who move to other areas, tiny amounts of people who flee because of experience of domestic violence here. But that has been a question that comes back time and time again, stirred up by racial prejudice. We are not, and other councils are not buying social housing in Cornwall to house people from all over the country. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary? Councillor Wills.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is to do with air and space, and as we have two people dressed rather appropriately as space cadets, the definition being trainee astronaut or persons out of touch with reality, you make up your own mind. I would like to ask a simple question. Yesterday, we received an email from the monitoring officer which states, "I'm mindful of press reports regarding a police investigation. Such an investigation would take precedence over any council investigation which would not commence." It's a simple question for the leader of the council. Has the council been informed, yes or no, of any police investigation regarding the appointment of Councillor Gardner as head of space or air and space? Yes or no?
Leader.
Councillor Wills, if you're asking me as the leader, the answer's going to be no. If you're asking me as the council, I'd have to defer to the monitoring officer, please.
Perhaps the monitoring officer would like to answer yes or no.
I wouldn't like to answer that yes or no. as I've stated before, any comments on police investigation should just be completely left.
It's a simple question. Have we been informed there is a current police investigation, yes or no?
I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Okay, my supplementary, if I may, Madam Chairman. If the answer is no, then would the leader agree with me that whoever forms the next administration should hold a full, open and frank, transparent inquiry as to how this situation actually occurred?
Leader.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wills, it is not for me to determine the future actions of a future administration. That must be down to them.
Councillor Frost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I ask my question, I'd just like to take a moment to thank every member that is standing down at the end of this term for their service to Cornwall. Every single one of you across the chamber, you've done it for the right reasons, regardless. My question is for the leader, although Councillor Wills has kind of blown that out of the water. Does the leader agree with me that it is unwise to prevent members from asking certain questions to cabinet members that are clearly in the interest of this council and the public?
Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. So I'm always guided by advice that's given by the monitoring officer, and that's going to be my position in answering your question.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Leader. So do you not feel that these actions, specifically as well, the ones that just happened, further erode public confidence in our political institutions?
Leader.
You make a valid point, Councillor Frost, and at the end of the day, I would want to be guided by how I deal with things, and you've got to be honest, you've got to be transparent, and you've got to be doing the right thing for the council and for your own residents. And so I would be disappointed with any elected member who does not follow through on those principles.
Councillor Fitter.
It's Councillor Donovan, I believe, sir. I wonder where in the Constitution you could indicate where Cornwall Council officers can threaten a member with the possible costs being awarded against him if an application should be made to a planning inspector when they're responding to a consultation as the local member against an application being made by Cornwall Council under the Highways Act 1980. Thank you.
Councillor Donathorne.
Councillor Fitter, I don't have any knowledge of what you're talking about, and given the seriousness of what you have suggested, can I perhaps suggest we take this offline and I can try and get an answer to those questions?
Councillor Fitter, are you happy with that?
Yes, if I may come back, I'd rather, sir, if you could take it up with the monitoring officer who's been aware of my concerns since last month, the beginning of last month, when I've been able and attempting to get an answer to the question that I've raised with you. And I've even today, in actual fact, asked if I'm going to have an answer. As of yet, no reply has been forthcoming. Thank you.
Councillor Conway.
Thank you. Question to our leader. Mindful of the decimation of the Conservative Party following the snap election called by Rishi Sunak, has Councillor Taylor failed to learn the lessons from the scandals that took place then by permitting Lewis Gardner to be appointed to Spaceport at $70,000 a year despite the expected outcry? Does Councillor Taylor accept that her actions will cost her party up to 50% of the seats they originally thought they could retain? Thank you.
Leader.
Councillor Conway, it's always an interesting question from you because it's like half a story, isn't it? I've got to be careful what I'm saying, but I want to reinforce what has already been indicated. Neither myself nor any member of this administration were involved in the process to the appointment of the Spaceport head. I also want to categorically confirm that even if I was in a position, I was not in a position to interfere with that process, one, because I wasn't aware, and one, it is in the nicest possible way, nothing to do with elected members. That is a company that sits within the group of companies. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
Very simple supplementary. Surely the leader should have been aware had one of her cabinet members applied for a senior position in one of Cornwall Council's companies. Do you not agree?
Leader.
Well, I think the supplementary question just highlights the slight inaccuracies that you've come with. He did not apply for a job within Cornwall Council. He applied for a job within the group of companies.
Councillor Arthur.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the kind words from Councillor Wills. I thought he might realise that not all police investigations go to court. The question is to the leader. Did you know in October that Louis Gardner had applied for the job at Spaceport, Cornwall? And if so, why did you let him stay in Cabinet?
Leader.
No.
Supplementary. Councillor Mustoe.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to put on record my thanks for your 4 years and your regular engagement with me and my residents, with your chairman's gonks and your company at the boat race over the years at Mevagissey Feast Week. My question, I think, is to the leader. And I know a lot of officers have been thanked today, but I wanted to put a particular shout out to the team dealing with the Shared Prosperity Fund applications, who have been engaging with me and other members of my CAP on an almost daily basis to get various community projects assessed and processed in this council. We have seen a lot of investment across Cornwall with the SPF, and I'm sure members everywhere can point to projects in their divisions that have got some. Does she agree with me that whatever the makeup of the new council and administration, that we as Cornwall Council need to be pushing the government for a replacement for this fund? Call it whatever you like, but we do need one. Thank you.
Leader.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Mustoe. So I'm just quickly looking. I've got some figures that I want to refer to, but they're about 3 to 4 weeks old. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Labour Party sitting over there, because the Labour group, the Labour Parliament did come through with funding for year 4. And although we were on tenterhooks, we did get it. So I know as well, I'm hoping that you will continue to put pressure on the MPs in Cornwall to make sure that we get that continued funding, because it has made a huge difference. And I just want to, if I may, just go through some figures. And I don't want to talk about the big schemes, but what I want to do is just talk about the impact it's had on our residents. And as I said, these figures are about 3 to 4 weeks old. So 3,597 residents within Cornwall have been involved in training to make a better career, to make a better life for themselves. We've actually put 2,068 who have been supported into getting better employment opportunities, and we've actually worked with 1,622 people within Cornwall who are economically inactive. We've helped 846 people get retrained, and we've also helped 608 socially excluded people access support. We have completed with the community 143 projects, and when the Shared Prosperity was first announced, we received over 1,489 inquiries, and we had 498 applications. And when you look then at the team that was dealing with this, a huge thanks has to go out to that team, because to say they were overwhelmed is not an exaggeration. But the funding through, and I'm looking at the monitoring officer because I am now talking about SPF that's come from the government and the Labour government to make it fair. We've invested 45.5 million into communities and places. 65.4 million has gone into supporting local businesses, and in people in places, that's 145. We've done 10 projects, and through the rural prosperity, we've also been able to allocate 4.4. There's been the town deals, but I'm hoping that everyone sitting here through their networks as well will realise that having that money being allocated to the networks has made a huge difference in how you've been able to influence the spend in your local areas to support those very small projects that have really benefited. So I want to say, acknowledge a huge thank you for the staff that have been involved, but more importantly to everybody who's been involved, especially with our networks, in making a difference to their very local locations. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary?
No, I do not.
Councillor Long.
Gracias, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Councillor Frost for stealing my question. But I did have an alternative question, which is for Councillor Donathorne. Given the UK government's abdication of their responsibilities to maintain the A38 as it crosses the Tamar Bridge, could you advise what the next course of action that will have been taken by this council to continue the pressure to ensure that the Tamar Bridge is funded properly by the national government?
Councillor Donathorne.
Well, I want to start by thanking all councillors in the South East Cornwall constituency across the political divide for as long as for the 2 occasions that I've been in the role for Cabinet Member for Transport. Every single one of them has raised the importance of this for their residents, for their businesses, and I absolutely understand the concerns. Of course, Councillor Worth sits as joint chair of that committee, and I've worked with several different portfolio holders from Plymouth during my time in Cabinet, constructively and pragmatically, and we continue to make the case on behalf of the entirety of Cornwall. I had a meeting with Anna Geldard. Sorry, I never pronounce the name, but I had a really positive and pragmatic meeting with her a few weeks back in Parliament where we discussed this very matter. The campaign continues, and there's nothing that I will be able to say to you here or now that will probably either please you or give you the total assurances, but that campaign must continue, and we must try and speak as loudly and clearly as possible with one voice to get the desired outcome for not just the people of South East Cornwall, but North Cornwall as well, and the rest of the Duchy.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you. And also with thanks to Councillor Worth for all his efforts with the Tamar Bridge and Cornwall Ferry Joint Committee over the last few years, and all the members. Could I ask, have Cornwall Council approached the government following the embarrassing admission of funding, masses of millions of pounds of funding for another crossing in London, for crossings in London, and the failure to give any money for this, for the Tor Point Ferry and the Tamar Bridge?
Councillor Donathorne.
If it's all right, Chair, Councillor Donathorne's deferred to me on this one. So thank you, Councillor Long. I think it's particularly important at this stage to bring up the efforts that have gone on, particularly with Peninsular Transport. We're in a pretty special position. This is the poison chalice of this council. I know I was sort of, in a way, inherited it. And certainly the Cabinet, and I think everybody's now looking the other way, and sometimes the officers, because I think I've taken every chance in mentioning Tamar crossings that I can in all our engagement. The important thing now is, though, that we have lined up, and you being a member of the Joint Committee would realise this, that we now have a unique position in 60 years. We've got a situation where we were resolved to look at now the cheaper tolls for locals, to look at open road tolling, to look at eventually open road, and to hopefully then get to abolish. But the point of that, and Councillor Donathorne is right to say it, is that we've now lined up with our MPs, and I've had an even more recent meeting with the MPs now, in taking the position of Peninsular Transport. For the first time, we've now gained support in the strategic plan to 2050 to have Tamar crossings included, along with A38, Plymouth Metro, a whole range of things. But the point I want to emphasise is this, and I had the conversation once with the Secretary of State, and he told me, this was Mark Harper in the previous administration, and very clearly said, please do not come with a begging bowl, because there isn't any money. We've heard today, there isn't any money. And that's one of these things. There seems to be for other areas, but for the residents of South East Cornwall, and in that I'm going to include the residents of Cornwall and of Plymouth, we need that support. Now, the way through, the way that I see, and this is the legacy that I would like to be able to leave, and in agreement with the MPs, which is an important point, the future of particularly South East Cornwall is based upon looking at economic development. And the key to that is our dockyard and our employment area. So it's wrong that people should be constantly having to pay those tolls every day to get to support this nation in its defence. Now, there is billions going into that dockyard, quite rightly, and I have said personally to Luke Pollard to say, look, if we haven't got a bridge and we haven't got a ferry to provide your staff to support the nation, they can't get to work. So exactly the point you raise, and I look forward to hearing the Joint Committee moving forward, which I won't be part of, but hopefully there is a new consultative committee has been set up under now our administration to do that, led by particularly important Richard Stevens, and I think members of this House would, the Council will appreciate what a great job he's done with the buses in supporting that, leading that with the relevant areas of support from Toll Action Group, which is important, Road Haulage Association, for everybody to come together and then work with our MPs to take this back to government to secure that funding, because that's where it's going to come from. It's not going to come from the capital requirement here. I mean, we haven't proposed that. I haven't heard that come from this chamber. We have to get that economic support from the government to take this forward, to get this in place. Thank you.
Councillor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for Councillor Donathorne, and it concerns the 20-mile-an-hour rollout throughout Cornwall. I was very pleased at the last election to be a part of the Cabinet and had the pleasure of introducing our manifesto pledge to invite all those interested in having 20-mile-an-hour limits provided in their street scenes, and rolled it out. We did very successfully, a highly successful policy of this wonderful administration. The aim being to provide the tools to change behaviour and control speeds. I want to find out from you, Councillor Donathorne, whether you continue to support the 20-mile-an-hour rollout and the circumstances behind that, the philosophy behind it of building a place in our street scenes of a quality of life, a place where a child can feel safe about riding on a bike, that we are developing through this policy vibrant communities where people live, work and shop as a priority. The core philosophy being, as I say, quality of life for our residents, reducing pollution and injury. And under your...
Councillor Desmond, you have asked your question, and I'm conscious of the time running out here, so I'm just going to bring in Councillor Donathorne to reply.
Thank you, Giles. Madam Chairman. To answer the specific question of do I agree with Cabinet policy, I know we are only a couple of weeks away from the election, but I am bound by collective responsibility. So my answer, of course, will be yes. And I am proud that we have not just delivered on the manifesto pledge made in 2021. Thank you, Councillor Desmond, for what you did in your role as Cabinet Member for Transport through that time. But a big part of the role that I see myself playing across Cornwall is making sure that we communicate, that when there are fears in our communities around Cornwall, that this is not a blanket approach that we have seen in parts of Wales, for example. And this is a targeted exercise where we try and reduce the speeds of our residential areas across Cornwall. The default is looking at 30-mile-an-hour roads with an exceptions list to make sure that we get it right. And I am pleased that both by and large, the consultation responses from different parts of Cornwall have been popular. I'm certainly picking that up as I go around Cornwall, but also the positive reaction of reducing the speeds where we are rolling out these speed limits. And as the father of 2 young children and an avid walker, and I think we're all doing quite a lot of walking in these few weeks, is that I will continue to play my part in trying to make our roads and communities safer across Cornwall, and this is a key part of that mission.
I'm hoping you haven't got a supplementary.
I have indeed. First,
Can we keep it short?
And thank you to everybody. I'm standing down. But once you're re-elected, Councillor Donathorne, and as the future leader of the next administration, could you confirm that the policy will continue to be one of responding to a request for 20 mile an hour limits rather than an imposition of 20 mile an hour limits?
Do you just want to say yes?
No, Madam Chair, because that would get me into a lot of trouble if I just say yes. I will continue to advocate a rollout of 20 mile an hour that is absolutely not a blanket approach, but one that is sensible and targeted and where it works for our communities. And I will continue to make that distinction.
Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Chair. A question to Councillor Harris and to revisit the question asked by Councillor Barnes regarding capital and revenue spend. And just to clarify that, first of all, it is indeed our revenue budget which is used to service the capital debt payments. So this could, in fact, have been reinvested into core service delivery and not spent repaying significantly increased capital debt. But my question relates that you referenced the 2021 and 24 gross debt figures, and you'd previously talked around the net debt figures for the current period. So would you be able to confirm our current capital gross debt in March 25, please?
Councillor Harris.
Sorry, can you just repeat the final part of your question?
In short, can you confirm our gross capital debt in March 2025?
If it's on one of my notes here, then yes, I can. 31st of March 25, according to my figures here, gross debt is 1.376 billion.
Do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you very much.
Councillor Toms.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is for the leader. You know I'm standing down. When I came here, the leader then was a guy called John Lobb. It was a Rainbow Coalition, and it was probably the best council I ever served on, because people worked together, because there was no politics in it. There was waste of time playing politics with it, and you know, it meant that we got on with the job in hand. I must pay tribute to a guy, and I don't know whether he's still alive, Mr. Roberts. He taught me how to be a councillor. A great man with a great career, a long career in Cornwall Council. Just to say that, and this is the question I want to ask, what you've seen today is the display of the politics. Take that out and be the people you should be, the leaders of your communities and the bastions of Cornwall, the people that look after Cornwall, provide its services and deal with the issues that are pressing and the deprivation that is out there today. I'd like to thank a lot of the officers that are in the room for their hard work. I know we've turned some of them grey. It's a standing joke between me and her. We've both turned grey since we've been here. But no, all joking apart, don't put up for election if you want to come here and play politics. Come here because you want to do the best for Cornwall. I'm standing down. That's me done. My last meeting, my last speech in this room. And if anybody wants to take issue with it, you won't get it through the monitoring officer before I've actually left. So thank you very much. Enjoy your time. And I look forward to seeing you when I'm sat up there asking questions. Thank you.
One more person that I've got on the list that hasn't spoken today is Councillor Perry. I'm being quite, well, I'm letting you do it because it's the last council, so carry on, but can you keep it small if you can?
Thank you for accepting my very late question, Madam Chairman. It's a question for Councillor Worth, meant in good faith. We know the work that you're doing, we know the headaches you have, and that there seems to be very little money. And you talk about the bridge, the ferries, the A38. And people in Whitehall probably view that, oh my God, he wants money for a bridge. What goes through their minds, I don't know. He wants money to cross a river on a ferry. My God, what a jolly. And he wants a road. I wonder whether sometimes you could refer to the Tamar crossings as the Great Southwest Link, because it is a vital link between East and the economic prosperity of Cornwall. And it would link us. And I just feel sometimes that with a marketing hat on, that word link might have some better impact than talking individually about bridges, ferries, and a road. It's just a thought. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there anything to be said?
I think there is, to conclude on that, and I just follow up on that point. I am always conscious that at the start, and I take your point, Councillor Perry, at the start of every news programme, of every situation we see for the South West, and you're quite right, it's always a shot of the bridge in this particular, the Royal Albert Bridge as well. So I think we have an opportunity to reinforce that. I take the point very much. Whether it's called the Great Southwest, there's other political connotations of that at the moment, maybe not. I think one thing I'm going to say to conclude, and it is a thought, that we quite often get quite a bit of criticism about those very grand offices that were built a while back, a little bit before my watch. But one thing I could think of, particularly with that view, there might be a mayor one day, and we might earn some revenue by renting those offices out for that mayor to sit there and look at the wonderful area of Cornwall and to charge for that position. So thank you for that opportunity. Who knows what will happen in the future, but certainly we will consider what you've said.
Councillor Perry, do you have a supplementary?
You'll be very pleased to hear no.
The meeting closed at 12:24. We'll see you in the long gallery.